Hi guys, it is finally time to set up my journal for 2026 and I am going to use this beautiful blue Reverie notebook from Mellow Days. I love all of these golden flowers on the cover. It is an A5 size with thick watercolor paper inside. The pages are slightly creamy in color and you can't really see the dots in the footage because they are brown. But there is no problem seeing them when you are working in the journal, which is awesome because you can use this notebook as a journal or bullet journal, but also as a space to draw or paint. I have used both watercolors and gouache in the Reverie journals and they worked fine. The only issue I have with these notebooks is that sometimes the signatures, so the sections of papers that are folded and then sewn together, do not always align perfectly when you open the journal. You will see that when I will be working on some spreads. To me, that is not that big of a problem, but I just wanted to mention it in case you are interested in this journal and this is something that might be bothering you. I bought this notebook last year with intentions to use it for my 2025 journal, but they then just came out with a beautiful burgundy colored one, so I used that instead, which means for 2026 I can finally use this blue beauty. Okay, that was a long talk about a journal and you can see I am already working on the calendar spreads. I skipped the cover page for now because honestly, I was feeling nervous and overwhelmed and I was not really sure how I want the cover page to look like or what stationery I would like to use. I just bought 4 new washi tapes from the washi tape shop with intention to use one of them for this setup and some of the other ones for my reading challenges journal. I will be setting that one up in January. But guys, when these tapes came in, I loved them so much. I wanted to use more than one. Even when on the first glance they maybe do not look like they would work well together. But I accepted this challenge and got very excited for this setup. I will of course use more stationery than these 2 washi tapes, but those will be the focal point, the base of every spread. And of course, everything used in this video, if it is still available, is linked in the description, roughly in order it appears in the video. Many of these spreads I am setting up today look very similar to the ones I have in my current journal, simply because they worked, and they worked so well I want to keep having and using those spreads. But there are also few new to me pages. This 2026 at a glance spread, or simply put calendar, is almost the exact replica of the one I am using now, except for the color of stationery. There are 4 months on each spread, that means I am using 3 spreads total. I am creating a Dutch door here, so I cut off any excess of the pages that is not the calendar itself, and I also leave a white border around each calendar. It makes it all look more intentional and less busy around the notes area because this spread will get quite full of flowers. These are the 2 tapes I am going to use as a main decoration. They look so different, but I just could not choose one over the other. For this particular spread, I am using red flowers as a main decoration and I will put them literally everywhere. This Harvested Bloom tape was part of the autumn release, so there are both red and orange flowers in the design and the text is autumn related, but I think you can use this tape all year round. In later spreads I will combine both red and orange flowers, so don't worry, these won't stay unused. But for this spread, because I knew it would end up being quite busy, I chose to limit the color of the flowers. I don't like wasting the tapes or stationery in general, so I try to use every offcut in some other part of the spread, and except the pieces I cut off from the corners of the calendar, I managed to use everything in here. Looking at the spread now, as I work on the voiceover, maybe those flowers at the top of the page were not the best idea. They added so much to the overall busyness of this spread. I should have maybe put the calendar a bit higher, but it is what it is now. I have something to think about for the 2027 setup. For the calendars, I used Year at a Glance printable from Jessie Corinne because I was not keen on writing it all by hand, especially considering the next spread I will be working on. I wanted to have some fun colors in here, so I used Canva to add color to each month, and I have not noticed that for some reason I lost few dates in those calendars. The printable itself is perfectly fine, but I must have messed something up, so I will have to go in and write in missing numbers later. I honestly never even noticed that while working on the spread. I am gluing the calendars over the top of the Dutch door, so they are slightly overhanging, and I will cover that overhang with the calendar on the other side. I love how much more interesting and cuter it looks now. Under each calendar, I am creating two sections. One is for events and appointments, and the other section is there solely for birthdays and name days. I like to separate this out, it makes the calendar easier to use. This whole 2026 at a glance section took me 57 minutes, so almost an hour to finish, and that's because there was a lot to do and I was not entirely sure what I was doing, where I would place the calendars, how the decoration will look, what colors to use for the second line highlights. There was a lot of thinking on the spot involved in this setup. Even when I pre-planned the structure of the pages, decoration is always a bit of a wild card in my setups. I never know what will happen, and everything usually ends up looking different to what I imagined. Thankfully, better most of the time. The hour spent on this calendar is just me standing in front of my desk and putting lines and stationery on the paper. There were many more hours involved behind the scenes, but that is not important. I want to show you, just as I did with my reading journal setup, that these pages take time to make. Much more time than you imagine usually, and that is okay. I am sure there are people who would create this exact spread in way less time than I did, but I am not that lucky. It all takes me a lot of time. And I don't care. I love working on my spreads and on my journals. Also, I think this goes without saying, but I am going to say it regardless. This level of decoration or planning is not something you have to do. You can print out the calendar and glue it on the page. Perfect, done. You can even buy pre-made planners. Everyone does what they are most comfortable with. This is my hobby, so I sometimes, most of the time, go overboard, and I feel like I have to say it. There is no right or wrong way to decorate and use your journals. We all should accept and enjoy everyone's individual take on it. Next is a new addition to my journal, and that is another calendar. Yes, I know, but while the Year at a Glance is more of a reference and to note down future events and appointments, this calendar is for me to write down day-to-day events I would like to remember. Yes, the daily entries are there to do just that, but I would need to look through the whole journal to find something. This will provide me with information instantly, or I can maybe read through these when I have a bad day or when I would need some motivation, because I am planning to write in here mostly positive things that happened, no matter how big or small. It is kind of like a take on a line a day, or a monthly highlights, or maybe a take on a 5-year journal, but I am not yet ready to commit to a 5-year journal, so this is like a yearly version of that. I was inspired by Jessie Corinne to add this spread to my journal. She does this as a quarterly section in her journals, so she uses only one page for the whole thing. And I thought for a long time whether to incorporate this in my journal. I knew monthly or quarterly sections would probably not work for me. That's why I decided to set it up for the whole year at once. This will serve me as kind of like a bird's eye view of the whole year in one place, and I don't know if I make any sense, but I am very excited about it, and I am curious to see how I will feel about this spread at the end of the year. When all line work is done, it took a lot of time, guys, but I am nothing if not committed. I am making Dutch doors again. This time I did not think it through. Yeah, but I am so glad I noticed the mistake, because there are 4 columns on the left page and 3 on the right. If I cut off the remaining sections of the right page, I would cut off part of the calendar onto the left side on the next page. That's why I decided to only cut off the top part of each page, which means the top section of this whole spread needs to be decorated only once, while I will put the decoration on the right side next to the calendar on every page. And while it was more work than I expected, it was an opportunity to figure out the decoration itself, because at this point I was still not sure what to do, how to incorporate that blue lace tape in the setup. First, I added these marker lines in the background. That was something I also took from Jeshi's video. I really like how it looks and I wanted to try it in my journal as well. And for something that simple, it is very impactful on the page. I loved how it looked so much, so that I used it on a couple more spreads later in this setup. While setting up this whole section took a lot of time, it was kind of relaxing. Only thing I needed to be aware of is to make sure the marker lines line up between pages. It's time to decide on decoration. I chose this craft tape. It felt less busy than the one with text, and also its color was matching better with the rest of the stationery. And while it is a washi tape, it barely sticks to the page, so I also had to use glue under it to make it stick better, especially when placing it on top of the other tapes. For the days of the week, since this is another version of calendar, I stamped them on this craft tape as well, and by doing this I brought more color to the top of the page. And then the star of the show, this Fleur de Lune PET tape. This was love at first sight, guys, and it is very hard to show on camera, but this tape has a slight sparkle to it. There is a sparkling and not sparkling version available, and I of course had to choose sparkle. It looks very dainty and romantic, and I was not really going for that theme, but the addition of the craft paper tape knocked some of the sweetness off and brought out the flowers. At least that's what I tell myself. Before I continue to decorate the following pages, I am working on writing all dates in the calendar for the whole year. I chose 3 dot markers to be able to alternate between colors each month, so it would be easier to see where each month starts and ends with just a glance. While using only one color might look more uniform, I imagine it would be quite confusing for me to use this calendar, especially because there is no way to see which month is which, but eventually I decided to write down the month onto the left side of the calendar. It seemed like a perfect space for that, and it serves kind of like a decorative element on that part of the page. Okay, now I can work on the rest of the decoration. I am putting a strip of brown tape along each right edge. I want it to look like the continuation of the tape I put in the top right corner. Then I took turns between using this blue PET tape and the washi tape with red and orange flowers. And I was getting kind of not tired of the same decoration, but I felt like I needed to add more. And these windows by Lela Journals fit so perfectly in the space. I have the full roll of those, but just so I would not need to unroll yet another tape, there are so many to the side just out of the camera view that did not make it to the setup. That's why I am using windows I put in my reusable sticker book. I like doing that, so I would be able to see the full variety of stickers or designs a washi tape or PET tape has. I also used some of the older washi tape stickers that fit the theme or color scheme. That piano, for example, I have had this tape for a few years now. Also, I recently got some library themed PET tapes by Notebook Therapy from Vinted. That's like an online secondhand shop if you have no idea what that is. And despite me not really planning on using these, I could not help myself and I put few designs here and there. It made this setup take much longer though, because I spent a lot of time deciding which picture to use, and these PET tapes are not pre-cut, so I had to do it myself. But it was so worth it. These designs are so pretty and the tape itself is matte, so there is almost no glare or shininess, which I am so happy about. Also, there is this hollow foil effect in some parts and it looks so good. This whole section, so all 10 pages, took roughly 2.5 hours to finish. It is a lot, but also it is 10 pages. And I did not really rush. I put on some YouTube and worked on the structural parts that way, because once you make one page and the rest is the same, you don't really need to think much while working on it. On this following spread will be my social trackers, namely YouTube and Instagram, since I don't really have time for more social platforms. Even Instagram is forgotten from time to time, but I am doing my best with the time I have available. This will be simply a big table where I will write down my subscriber numbers first day of each month, if I remember to do that. And this time I am also having here basically every metric YouTube gives me, like views or watch hours and stuff like that. This table is not here for me to chase numbers, because none of these statistics is something I can change or influence myself. People either like my videos and watch them, or they don't, and that is completely fine. I do like to see the progress and maybe compare one month to the other. I would say it is a form of memory keeping, but in numbers, and it makes me appreciate and see that yes, I am actually making progress, and that yes, people are watching my videos. Sometimes I just need a reminder that all work I put into my videos is not a waste of time. I started 2025 with roughly 2300 subscribers, and now there is more than 4000 of you guys, which is unbelievable. And know that I appreciate every single one of you. If I did not have the social tracker in my journal, I don't think I would appreciate how much this channel has grown in 2025. I am using only red flowers this time, few brown washi tapes and a couple of frames in the corners. There is a small space left next to the table on the right side, and I will use it as a type of milestones tracker and maybe for some notes if needed. I chose this red marker for the second line highlights, and I don't really know how to feel about that. I guess I wanted to match it to the red flowers, and then I felt like there was not enough red on the left side of this spread, so I colored in the months, and that might be a bit too much now. Honestly, I don't know what to think about this spread, and it is definitely not my favorite in this setup. It took me 48 minutes to do, which is quite a lot for only 2 pages, but with the setup of this whole journal, I did not have decoration or even the overall theme chosen before starting to work on the pages, so the whole process is taking much longer than it was in my reading journal setup. But in that one, I did most of the work behind the scenes, and before I turned the camera on, I at least roughly knew what I was going to make. Let's flip to the next page, and here will be another new addition to my journal, and that is bills and subscriptions tracker. There is a lot of money being spent, and I do not always know where it goes, so this is for me to see all my bills. I can't really do anything about those, but also subscriptions all in one place, and I hope it will make it easier for me to see and decide if I want to keep some of these subscriptions or not. This year I cancelled 2 subscription services, and I am not going to lie, it felt good. But quite a few I have because of this YouTube channel, so I am not sure any more cancelling will be done. But that's what this spread is here for, to help me with that. I was not really sure how to set this up, as you might have guessed from a bunch of pencil lines that were on the page. I went back and forth between two versions. In the first one, I was planning on writing down the sum I pay each month after it gets paid, but since most of these do not really change throughout the year, it might be quite repetitive and maybe unnecessary. My second option is to write down the sum for each bill or subscription in the front and then just do a check mark every month it gets paid, and I decided to go with this option. In the table, I have bills and subscriptions listed. Then I will write down day of the month it gets paid. Next to it, it's the sum. After that, I have a column for every month, and at the end, there is a space for the total sum paid during the whole year. None of the two versions is perfect, and I am curious to see what I will think about this tracker at the end of the year. Also, yes, there are few rows left blank in the subscription section because I might have forgotten some, and I also might add a subscription during the year, so I figured having spare rows might be a good idea. I am using the blue lace tape on this spread, and I really wanted to add the background lines in here as I did with one of the previous spreads, but because I used that cream marker for these tables, I wanted to try a different color so as not to have this whole spread plain and cream colored. I ended up using this pink marker. It was the closest I had to the color of the flowers in the tape, and I am so glad I did that. It looks much better than I even expected. There is not a lot of decoration on the sides on this spread. I did these clusters of tape and some stickers on top. It is not my usual go-to style, but I have to say I like how it looks here. It took me 40 minutes to finish this spread, but that is again because of the type of decoration I used here, and because I had to cut a lot of these designs by myself from the tape. Next is a very specific section in this journal, and that is video planning spread. I came up with this one last year and it was so useful. I want to have it in my next journal as well, even when it is once again one of those trackers or planner that takes a lot of time to set up. And while video planning is not something you might do, this spread can be used for projects or tasks that happen regularly and have few steps to complete. Or maybe when you need to plan ahead but there is yet to set a date for your project, and you need a way to make sense of the time frame and you still want to use physical tracker instead of a digital one. I tried planning digitally so many times, but I always come back to a physical journal. I find it more satisfying to write stuff down with pen on paper than type it on the keyboard. This is basically just a list of all Sundays in 2026 and a few in 2027, and I totally butchered the table on the last page. I forgot to make the first section thinner to have there a space for headers, so then I figured they could be down at the bottom, but I quickly realized it would bother me so much if there was one page set up differently than the rest. I then tried to cover some of these lines and I hated it, so I eventually decided to redo the whole table and cover the old one. I used the last page of this journal to do that, just so it would all be from the same paper. I made so many mistakes while setting up this journal, but it is fine. Mostly everything can be covered. I, for some reason, decided to do pink highlights. I still have no idea why, guys. Then I also used the same cream marker I used for everything so far, and I am marking few columns at the right side of each table. There I will write steps I need to do when working on my videos. And once they are done, I add a check mark there. In my current journal, I have a few more sections in this table, and during the year I have realized some are not necessary. So for 2026, I have here filming, writing and recording voiceover, editing, making thumbnail and adding links under my videos, and the last one is for me to check off when the video is live. I am cutting away some parts of these pages to create Dutch doors. I just love having them in my journals. It looks so good, and there are also less pages to decorate. I am once again adding all the lines into the background, and once again in pink with blue tape. I love how the combination of these two looks on the page, so I am simply repeating the same decoration style from the previous spread, with the text washi tape and smaller decorations on the sides as well. And I tried to find designs with something pink in them, so it would at least slightly match with the rest of the stationery already on this spread. Now it is time to add all the dates. First, I go through every page and write down the date of every single Sunday. I do not plan on changing my uploading schedule, so it should be okay. If I do change it, I will need to figure something out, but that is a future me problem. I could maybe write down dates as the year goes by, maybe every quarter or so, but I just like doing it all at once. When the dates are written, it is pretty obvious where I need to divide these tables into individual months. I do that in the first column of the table, and as a last thing, I write down the months in all the boxes I just created. This is my current video planner. As you can see, it is used quite a lot, and I love how full it is now. It makes me see that yes, I do stuff, and this is where all my free time goes. I am going to transfer some of the tabs into the new journal and show you how I use it. First tab I'm moving is reading wrap up. I do this roughly in the middle of the month, so I put it there in the middle of January. Then I have a tab for journal vlog, then stationery haul. That may happen sometime in February. I watched a lot of movies I want to talk about, so I put movie journaling in, and let's make some new ones. Monthly setup is something I do every month, and I have 1 or 2 sticky tabs for those, just so I can plan further ahead. Then maybe I will do a room makeover, or better said, stationery space makeover. I have a new idea for washi tape storage, and I really want to try that. When I plan my video schedule, I first put down tabs for time-sensitive videos, like the monthly setups. Those happen usually last Sunday of the month, so I make sure I put the tab there. Reading wrap-ups are done in the middle of the month, but not necessarily, and then I fill up the remaining space with other ideas until I have every Sunday filled in at least 4 or so weeks ahead. It makes me calmer to know what I will be working on next, and it is easier for me to plan what to film when as well. This is one of my most used spreads in the whole journal, and it took me an hour to set up. But the next one is one of the quickest and easiest to set up spreads, and that is waiting for. It took me 24 minutes to do, and in this one I write in all my online orders during the year. There is a section for noting down what I ordered or from which shop, then the date of the order, date shipped, and date when the order arrived. And at the beginning of this table is a small section to do a check mark when the order has arrived and everything is okay. This year it is the first time I am using this type of tracker in my journal, and when I was setting it up, I had no idea how useful it would be. And I am surprised how much I've been using it during the year. I am buying my stationery usually from the same shops, and now it is so much easier for me to predict roughly when the package will arrive, which is especially nice when I want to use some of the stationery in my videos, so I can plan my release schedule easier. And also, I am a very impatient person, so I stalk the tracking numbers every single time I order something, and this tracker helps me do that less because I can see that package from this shop takes 8 days to arrive, and from another one maybe even 25. If it takes more, I know I should reach out to see what is going on. I live in Slovakia, guys. Everything takes forever to get here. As a decoration, I put one of the windows in the corner and then flowers all around. This spread is quite orange. It looks maybe even a bit autumnal, I tried to use flowers I skipped when setting up previous spreads, and most of them were, as you can see, orange. On the following page, there is a section called Future Me Problems. That is again inspired by Jessie and her journals. In this space, I will be writing down all tasks I would like to do during the year, but they do not have a set date or month, nor a time of year. It is just something I would like to do at some point in the future. Without this page, I would need to keep all of those in my head and eventually forget about them. I can write here everything from buy a new dress to paint the apartment walls. Any task, big or small, goes in here. I have not used this spread before and I was not sure how much space would be needed, and because this is supposed to last me a whole year, I decided to allocate as much space on the page as possible for writing down all the tasks. Also, this time I am going for a slightly different style and there are no black outlines of the columns. I just went in with the second line highlights and I still managed to mess this up. I guess I can't be surprised by that, since this was, I think, 4th hour already of me working on this setup that day, so I was slightly tired. I am using washi tape on the sides. It makes the whole process quick and easier, but I forgot to move the tape when working on the last one. And I was not in a mood to redo that, so I simply put there a strip of the sticker paper and finished the column. It looks weird, I know, but I hope that with writing on top it will be less visible. This spread took me 20 minutes to finish, including my attempt at fixing this mess. Now, before I go and set up the last spread, I am finally going to decorate the cover page because I had the very last strip of this craft tape, and while I still had no idea what to do with the cover page, I knew I wanted to use it there, as well as the blue washi tape. I looked through my character sticker sheets and I brought all that were in blue colors and I compared them to the washi tape one by one, trying to find the shade of blue that would match. Eventually, I picked this sticker sheet by Carol Mello. This girl sticker is so pretty, so I put her in the middle of the page. I added a frame and I was not sure how to continue. Decorating cover page of a brand new journal always feels so intimidating. While I loved the frame, it looked empty and out of place, and I am so glad I had an idea about creating a background inside with this text washi tape. That small detail made the whole page look so much better. I tried to add this mod sticker in here as well, but I could not decide on the placement. There were the 2026 numbers prepared to put on the page as well, and I went over so many variations of where to put those. I like them under the girl sticker the most, so that left me with the awkward space on the top of the page. I was afraid of adding even more stationery here and making it too full, so I ended up adding a few strips of washi tape and a blue flower. I think it looks so much better here than the mod did, but I like it a lot, so it will get placed on the left page, so it is not empty anymore. Lastly, I added a long strip of washi tape at the bottom under the 2026 and a few more here and there, and the cover is done. I think it looks lovely, and even when I did not plan that, it matches the blue cover of this journal. I always forget there is a pocket in the back of the journal, so I usually make my own in the front, and this time I did not add here any decorations. I was afraid that whatever I put here would clash with the cover, and for now I do not mind the left page being mostly blank. The cover page and the pocket took me 35 minutes to make, mostly because I spent forever thinking about what to do next, what to use, how to make it look good. And thankfully, I am very happy I spent that time because I love how the cover turned out. I came up with the idea for the very last spread shortly before I started working on the cover page, and I anticipated there would be some stickers left from the whatever sticker sheet gets used on the cover page, and this would be the perfect space to use up the rest. Because I did not plan on making this section, I do not have a title printed, so I might do that later. This is a space for memories or highlights of the year in a form of pictures or photos. That's why I am decorating this page with whatever I have left. I used the very last pieces of the brown tape. That is historical first ever washi tape I completely used up, guys. That deserves a celebration. There are also all remaining stickers from the sticker sheet, and then I put a bunch of different washi tapes all around both pages. The idea is that when I put the pictures in, decoration will be peeking through the gaps between them. And I'm going to add here pictures whenever I feel like it. I am not going to make myself pick one picture for every month, but whenever there is something I would like to remember and celebrate. Because there was no real structure to follow and I just wanted to fill up the spread somehow, this spread took me only 10 minutes to do, and with this, my 2026 journal setup is complete. So let's do a quick flip through. When I started to work on this journal, I had no idea how it would turn out because except choosing the washi tapes, I went in blank, and I have to say I like this setup maybe even more than I do my current one. And that one is coincidentally also blue. I hope you enjoyed this setup. Maybe you got some inspiration for your own. Let us know in the comments what theme or colors are you using for your next journal. I would love to know. I have no idea how to name my theme because it is such a mishmash of my currently favorite washi tapes. So if you have any ideas, please share them as well. If you'd like to see more journal setups from me, here is a full playlist of everything I have created so far, and under that is a video YouTube things you might enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have absolutely a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.